This video is not so much for my students as for my colleagues, the professors and researchers who are using tools such as Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. There may be better alternatives, online tools and storage, using either Microsoft 365 or Google Suite. Here are some of the advantages. The first is ease of storage. If you go between offices or residences switching computers, you don't have to worry about bringing a flash drive. A second advantage is collaboration with colleagues. You don't have to email files back and forth and wonder about which is the more recent update, or if different updates are on different versions of that file. Perhaps the greatest benefit is mentoring your students. You don't have to be in the same office at the same time looking at the same computer screen. These tools allow for asynchronous collaboration, or for collaboration over great distances. Let's take a look at these tools. They're usually free if your institution has provided them for you, or in the case of Google Suite, all you need is a Gmail account. So I'm going to show the Google Suite, but it's very comparable for Microsoft 365. This is what Google Docs look like. You could click here and start a new document. Just go ahead and type in it. Saves automatically. Or another thing you could do is you could upload an existing document. Let's see, we go into our file picker and click upload. We browse what's available out there. Okay, I'm going to get my saved version of the file that I showed you at the very beginning. It uploads right into Google Docs. I could then make a copy of it if I wanted to modify it, but yet keep this version. Just make a copy and start editing the copy. And of course, the other great thing is that I click on Share, and I can change this from a file that's just available to me, and I could make it available to anyone with the link so that the other people can view it. Maybe they can have the role of commenter and leave comments on the side, or I can also give them the power to edit this. All they have to do is click on the link that I'm going to send them, and then they click on the link, they're on this document, they can edit it as well. Pretty neat. So how do I use these common documents? Well, mostly with my students. For example, I might want them to do a case study. And I have a specific template I want the students to do when they do case studies of individuals to illustrate their knowledge of Erikson's theory of the lifespan. So this is the skeleton document that I will copy and give to the student. Notice I use color coding. Red indicates instructions, and the student can erase the red instructions when they're no longer needed. I also type some things in black. That's the beginning of the student's actual assignment. I put some things in there in black because I don't want the student to change those things. I want the student to type in black and finish the document so that when the document's done, we just see all the black of the finished product and not the red instructions. This is one way I have to sort of force the student to include certain things and to set things up according to a particular format. In this case, I want the student to go through Erikson's 8 stages and comment about how this particular person, living or dead, fit through this. I can also give the student a particular interview protocol that the student has to follow. Notice also I have some things written in blue. The blue would be an example. The student can modify that example of things that I've already typed in, and now that will fit the student's own individual case. So that's how I would use a Google Doc for a case study assignment. I have similar things for the proposal of a survey, for developing a questionnaire, or for writing up a completed questionnaire-based survey. Once again, I want to force the student into maintaining my format, putting the title up front, having an abstract, an introduction, going through formal hypotheses, a method section, a results section, and so forth. Now, what about Google Sheets? This is the equivalent of PowerPoint. Now, I use this in several different ways. One of the things I do is I have my virtual office hours sign-up area. Now here, each column represents a different day of the week. Each row represents a different half-hour time slot. Notice that most of these I'm not available. I'm doing other kinds of things. So we have the red with the X through it. Now I use green to indicate, hey, I'm going to be on campus. I'm going to be in my office. Come on in, open hours, no appointments necessary. I can also have these blue telephone slots. The student signs up. I call the student at that particular time. And the student can be at home or in another state or in another country. Works out fine. Another thing I do is if the student has to give an assessment of a client as part of a case study, I can give the assessment tool and put it on this. The student comes in, fills out the part in yellow to provide the scores, and this is an example of a Holland Code vocational assessment for Client X. And in this way, the student can see how this particular client has the highest E factor and the lowest R factor. So this particular client should not be doing work as a construction person, but might be very much better off doing work as a sales type person. If I've assigned a quantitative project, what I can do is have the student code the data on this. Now, this particular student of mine had a questionnaire-based survey, and one of the questions was about the sex of the subject filling it out, male or female, heterosexual or queer orientation, age, marital status, married or not married, parental status, religiosity, not very, fairly, or very. And here we have the Texas 10-item personality inventory scale on openness, and the criterion variable here was the question of whether the client thought it to be important that a person in counseling have a counselor who was congruent in terms of religiosity on a 1 to 5 scale, extremely important or not at all important. So here we coded the data for 50 different participants in this sample. And even before we uploaded this into our statistical program, we could check for errors by looking at a count, a maximum, and a minimum. Very useful in helping the student code the data and look for errors. And then finally, of course, let's talk about the presentation that the student might have to give, either a poster presentation or a PowerPoint type presentation. So in terms of a poster presentation, here's an example of one that I did for the International Conference on Aging in the Americas. And this is one big PowerPoint type slide. And this is what is necessary to print something into a poster that would be utilized in a presentation. And if you do it here on Google Slides, you can work on it together and get this right. And then each time I work on a new poster presentation for another student, I simply take a copy of this and then I edit what I had here. Now, most of my presentations are not posters, but they involve slide decks. And so let's look at an example of what that student who did the project on religious congruence did. And once again, I had sort of a skeleton slide deck with various pictures and other kinds of things. So this is a presentation she gave, and she was able to introduce her topic about the importance of religion, incorporating some of the pictures that I previously had, and then she was able to focus on her particular hypotheses, present her particular method using the sample that she had, describing that sample, describing the questionnaires she used, the personality assessment, how this was an experiment because she randomly assigned the participants to two different groups. One group thought they were talking about counseling for bereavement, and the other group thought that we were talking about counseling for couples. And then two different scenarios. We described the procedure, the data analysis. She was able to present the results, both the descriptive statistics and the different comparisons of the experimental groups. Correlation matrix. So this is a very useful technique for working on a slide deck together. So those are the three main elements of these online tools. Something for word processing, something for spreadsheets, and something for the slides. Makes work a lot more productive.